cravat. You take the base line, bring that to the bottom. Bring the point to the base line and then fold it down. So you have something about this width. Next you need dressing. Where's your dressing? I might have dressing after all. Can't find mine. Okay. You take the dressing and put it over the injured ear. Let's say this is the injured ear. Hold that on there for me, please. Take the portion that comes across the top of the head, and the other portion comes underneath the chin. Comes around. Comes underneath their chin. It rotates on the opposite side. And then you tie off on the ear. Turn back the other way. And you just tie off on the ear. Okay, tie right off on the injured ear. That is, you're going to have two cravats. You're going to begin with one folded. The next one, the point facing away from you. Find the point. From the point, there will be a long side on one side of this point. Here's the point. This is going to be the long side. The cravat is longer on this side, shorter on this side. So that means the left shoulder is going to be the one that is injured. You're going to roll this up as close and as tight as you can. About halfway down, then with the hem on the outside, put this up against her neck. Where's that dressing? No. There it is, thank you. So put the dressing on the shoulder. And then, with the hem on the outside, you place this up against her neck. The short part goes in front. So it goes up against her neck, comes around, and ties up above her pectoral muscle. Then she puts her hand on your shoulder. And you take your cravat and you pull it towards you. Then you're going to come underneath her arm and tie off on top of the arm. Not tuck all this stuff in. So what I look for is when she puts her hand down, that there's some pressure there to help stop the bleeding. Then what you need is a wrist sling. Take one of your cravats, take it to the baseline, fold it down. Comes around the wrist, and then folds up to her body, comes around, ties off on one side of the neck or the other. Just pretend like I went underneath your hair. Okay. Pretend this ties right there. And then you put a wide binder. Last thing you do is put the wide binder, bring it to the baseline, fold it about 2 times. Comes around her elbow, around the side, and ties off on the side of her, right there on her side. So that's the shoulder. This is just for elevation, so you take your cravat. The point of your cravat is going to go underneath the injured side elbow of the arm. It's going to be her left hand arm, so you go underneath her arm and across her body. She folds her hand up and in, come around, and then you just tie off on the side of her neck. Okay, tie it right off there. Put a knot there, hold it like it's tied. Put a knot in, I better tie it because it looks like a knot. A little issue. knot in the elbow if you have enough excess. Okay, and then you put a wide binder. I'm not gonna do a complete wide binder, but just like we did with the shoulder, comes through her fingers, around the side, and ties off on her side. That's the arm sling. This is for an injury where you scrape up, let's say, a large portion of your arm, scrape up all your arm. Let's take this out. So let's say all of this is scraped and bleeding. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take this, drape like a cloth or something over the arm, and then you need your flexible roller gauze. You're just gonna start off anchored up on her bicep. Come around, then bring it down, and come around again, and just spiral down the arm. Spiral back up, crossing over. Any excess, you just tuck it in one of the turns when you're finished. It's the open spiral. Is next. You're going to take your cravat, going to put a couple, about a 2-inch hem in the baseline. Take the dressing, put it over the injury, say it's right here. And you're going to take with the hem on the outside, come around, and down around his eyebrows. I'm going to bring it, and then turn this way. Cross it in the back, and then come back and tie off right over his forehead. Tuck in these tails. And you're going to pull it down in the back. Pull this down in the back to make this tight. Tuck this in. And make sure the ears aren't exposed, so make sure his ears are out. That's for head injuries, you want the ears exposed. Okay, and that is the scalp. If I can just pick this up and pull it off, you've done nothing. Probably won't get any points for it. To the baseline, fold it down. Forehead. Put the dressing on the forehead. Start. Come around. Cross in the back. Tie off right over the forehead injury. Tuck in these tails. Make sure the ears are exposed because it is a head injury. That's the forehead. New, we start recording. Next we have the eyes cravat. So just pretend like the dressing is over his eyes, and it's the exact same one as the forehead. Just going to bring it down, and it's tied off over his nose instead. That's the eyes cravat. Burn. I'm going to start off with your cravat facing away from the person. So Marcus, put your hand about right here. You're going to bring the point over his forearm. Put that on there for me, would you please? Then fold it down several turns. You're going to cross it over both sides. And then tie off on the hard side. and it belongs in a wrist sling. So remember the wrist sling, put it in a wrist sling, just around the wrist, comes up over, sorry about this, comes up over, and then right there on his wrist, that's it. Start off with flexible roller gauze in the center of the hand. Close your fingers, thumb out. Then you're going to take one of your cravats, start right up on the wrist. Should be equal at the bottom. Come at an angle across the knuckles, and at an angle across the other side. Turn it over. You're going to just rotate them. Tie off on the hard side of the wrist. And a complete knot, tuck in everything, wrist sling. That's the palm pressure. Okay, next the finger. The finger, you ready? The finger, you're gonna start off with your flexible roller gauze and dressing. Bandage up 2 fingers even if just one is injured. Make several recurrent turns, back and forth. And then you're going to start wrapping at the base of the finger. So come around, just start wrapping around, coming up, and down. Then you're going to drop it. Finger in it, bring it around. Tie off on the wrist. If you need to, and put it in a wrist sling. Hand figure 8. You're going to start off with your flexible roller gauze. Anytime it says figure 8, it means this material. Take your dressing, put it in the center of the hand. You're going to start on the wrist at an angle. Come around, bring it down, come over it one more time, and then go through the hand at an angle. Through the hand, around the back, and close your finger. And keep your thumb out. And then, so you have an X right there. And all you're going to do is continue that movement. Back until you run out of flexible roller gauze. And then you just tuck this in somewhere and put it in a wrist sling. On there. Elbow figure 8. Start off on the bicep. Come at an angle. Come around the bicep. Bring the flap down. And then now you're just going to start going through the elbow at an angle to make an A or an X. So continue that movement till you run out of flexible roller gauze. Run out, wrist sling. Okay. The elbow figure 8. The elbow cravat. We just did an elbow injury. Now we're going to do the same one but with different material. So you have the elbow figure 8. Now we're doing the elbow cravat. Bring the baseline, the point to the baseline. Fold it up. Put the dressing on his elbow. Start off again with excess up at the bicep, and all you do is wrap. Just going to wrap it around the elbow. And then with that excess, you're going to bring it around and tie off right on. Tie off right on the elbow. elbow cravat. Eyes. Let's do the eye roller. So the eye roller, this is when you just bandage up one eye. So let's say it's going to be his left eye. I'm going to start above his left ear. Actually, you're going to start above his right ear. Go around the front of the head. And then all you're going to do is drop below that same side ear and over the eye. Just continue that motion below the ear, over the eye. And then when you finish, just going to tuck it in. Just make sure the other eye is not bandaged up, because this is only a one eye injury. Okay? So that's the eye. The eyes, figure eight. I'm going to start above either side here. Okay. Come across the top of the head. And then you're going to drop below this ear and up over that eye. Then you're going to stay above the top of the head and then come over and drop below the other eye and below both ears. Then up over the eye. You're just going to continue this motion and movement until you run out of flexible roller galls, and when you run out, you just tuck it in. And if you need to adjust it, you call me over. That's all you do. So that's the eyes figure eight. Put on, it's life or limb. Somebody's going to bleed to death if you don't put it on, or you're possibly going to lose the part of the limb that's below the tourniquet. You don't take it off once you put it on. They're only taken off when hospital personnel or emergency staff take it off. So you need two cravats, you need dressing, you need something for added pressure, and then you need a note. We're going to pretend like this is paper. I'm writing on here tourniquet or TK. I'm going to put this on my left leg, so left leg, and then the time you put it on, so 12:45. Put the dressing right over the artery. So put the dressing right over the artery. Take your cravat, find the halfway point, rotate it on the opposite side of the leg, and then tie off right over the injury. I usually just go ahead and put a whole knot in it, and then bring the pin in and put a whole knot over the pin. Then you have these two tails. Tie the other cravat on one of the tails. Then what you're going to do is turn the pin until the bleeding stops. And then what you want to do is wrap the long tail around the pin, going the same direction, keeping the pressure on it, and then around the leg and right over the pin. Everything's right over the pin. Then you're going to tie this tail off with the other tail. Everything's tied off right over the pin. Tuck in anything else that's hanging out. Then what you want to do is take your note that has TK, time, and location, and stick it right in here. Or you could pin it on the shirt or do whatever you need to do with it. Okay? So that's the tourniquet. So ladies and gentlemen,